Hey guys, it's Danny. Today we're gonna discuss about an orchid that I really like and how to care for it. And this is the Chysis bractescens that I recently managed to bloom. I really like this orchid not only for its beautiful fragrant flowers, but also for its foliage and its ease of care. And as you will see, it's really not that hard to care for this orchid. Now first, a little trivia about this orchid. It is not a hybrid, it's a natural species found in Central America. It's an epyphite orchid, meaning that it does not grow in soil, and this is pretty obvious by the way it grows. Its nature is to be pendant, and I think you will never see a Chysis bractescens being staked up. It is pretty impossible to stake in any way its canes. In its natural habitat, it grows attached to trees, and of course, it pens down, which means we can grow this orchid in various setups. So let's start with the temperature that this orchid requires. It is classified as a warm grower, so this orchid can easily tolerate high temperatures, but it will do great in intermediate temperatures as well. As a personal experience, I didn't have much trouble with this guy in lower temperatures as well. It was able to sustain 16 or 17 degrees Celsius during winter time in my care, without any type of damage, although this is not ideal. As a high extreme, it was able to withstand 35 degrees Celsius as well without any visible trouble. So you can say this guy is pretty flexible, although the ideal conditions are somewhere between 25 and 28 degrees Celsius. Regarding light quantity, the Chysis bractescens likes bright light, but it should be sheltered from hot noon sun because its leaves are pretty sensitive. If you can provide an eastern exposure, it's just perfect, and if you have a southern exposure, you can definitely use sheer curtains. I am keeping my Chysis in a southern exposure, but I make sure that this orchid is never hit by direct sunshine. Too little light can make this orchid not bloom, so if you have any experience with oncidium orchids, I find this orchid to be very similar when it comes to light requirements. The key factor in keeping a Chysis bractescens healthy is watering. Being that it's an epiphyte, it does enjoy free-draining medium and airy medium, however it absolutely hates staying bone dry for too many days. I find that my Chysis does best when I water him just before the medium dries. So it's pretty okay to have constant damp medium if you can provide ventilation at the same time. This orchid tolerated tap water for me very well, and this is because sometimes in his natural habitat he can grow on calcareous rocks. So regarding hard water, I find this guy more tolerant than many other species. If you use osmosis or rainwater, be sure to add fertilizer to that water, and most importantly a fertilizer that has calcium and magnesium added. How often you should fertilize this orchid? It really doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter the type of fertilizer you are using, whether it's a bloom booster or a growth fertilizer, as long as it's intended for orchids. Other than that, just follow the instructions on the label. Or if you have your own schedule formed, just follow that. The Chysis bractescens is really not picky when it comes to fertilizer. But it is very important that he receives some sort of fertilizer, because he is a very fast grower. So let's talk about its pattern of growth, because this is really interesting. Its canes grow downwards, and this orchid has some of the most impressive canes that I've seen on an orchid. They are considerably large, but more important, one set of canes grows completely within about 9 months. And now it's pretty obvious why this orchid needs constant water and constant fertilizer to be able to grow these large pseudobulbs and mature them before winter comes. Regarding winter care, well, really, it's not any different than summer care. You should still water your Chysis bractescens because this orchid does not take a dormancy, even if it will look that way. If in your growing space in wintertime temperatures go lower, the water will evaporate slower as well. So of course you need to pay attention to how fast the pot dries, and maybe you shouldn't water as often as in summertime. Also, fertilizer can be reduced to some extent, because when this orchid finishes growth, it doesn't need that many nutrients. However, do not stop watering the Chysis bractescens. Even though some articles suggest you do, you'll notice pretty fast that the old pseudobulbs will start to shrivel and look really bad. If this happens to your Chysis, it's a clear sign that it needs hydration. Usually a new cane will start somewhere in the spring, and it will be fully mature sometime in winter. Each cane is about 4 or 5 centimeters in diameter, and the leaves sprout from each side of the cane. The leaves are pretty thin and fragile, so you need to be a little careful if you plan on moving this orchid. The Chysis bractescens usually blooms in the springtime, but before it blooms, something pretty dramatic will happen. The fresh cane that grew during summer and autumn will start to lose its leaves. One by one, usually from the bottom, they will start to go yellow and fall. This is not a reason for worry because this orchid is a deciduous orchid, meaning it's supposed to lose its leaves. Sometimes it is described as semi-deciduous, but my particular one always lost all of its leaves prior to starting a new growth. The new cane will start to develop in spring, and before it reaches maturity, and actually pretty early on, it will produce a flower spike with blooms. So this orchid produces its flowers on immature new growth. My new growth was about 10 or 15 centimeters in length when it started to produce its spike. Each flower spike can hold up to 10 flowers, but this really depends on the maturity of the plant, and of course on its state of health. I don't think there is a magic trick to rebloom this orchid other than making sure that all its requirements are met. I would say the most important things to keep in mind is hydration and proper watering, fertilizer, and light quantity. If you make sure your orchid has proper amounts of these, it should be no hassle for you to grow it and rebloom it. Some people suggest that this orchid smells like vanilla. I personally find that it smells more like gardenia than anything else, but fragrance is a very personal thing, so I guess it's up to you to decide how this orchid smells like when your Chysis will bloom. As beautiful as the Chysis looks even without blooms, as tricky it is to repot it sometimes, specifically to make it stay in a brand new pot if the roots are not attached to the sides of the pot already. As images are better than words, you can visit the info card on the screen right now and you can see my technique. Basically, I like to stabilize every pendant orchid when I repot it this way, thus I'm not worried that at any moment it can fall out of its pot, particularly with the Chysis bractescens, which is a very top-heavy orchid. If you notice the roots on your Chysis bractescens are fuzzy, don't worry, they're supposed to be that way. However, I did notice that the roots inside the medium, which benefit from higher humidity, tend to be fuzzier than the ones that are aerial. In fact, aerial roots are not massively produced, and they present no hairs at all. The Chysis bractescens is not a rare species of orchid, but you most probably will not find it in garden centers or flower shops. It's best to look for it in specialized online shops or orchid nurseries. And as prices go, this is not a pricey orchid at all. Even a mature plant will not create a hole in your wallet. Okay guys, thank you for watching this video, hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. And if you ever smelled a Chysis flower, let me know in the comments below what it smells to you. If you want to see more orchid videos from me, simply subscribe to my channel, I post on a daily basis. Also, feel free to leave me comments down below if you have questions or suggestions for videos, and always feel free to send me a letter at the address you see on the screen or in the description below. Choose an option on the screen if you'd like to visit my website orchidnature.com or watch another orchid video. Don't forget to rate, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!